What is up, team? Welcome back to the Red Storm Rapid Reaction Podcast. I'm Pat Kane. Today we have a very special guest, our inaugural podcast guest. You all know him, Mr. David Barov of the Eye in the Storm podcast. Dave, how you doing tonight?
What's up, Pat? Thank you for having me. I know you've been on my show once or twice. Happy to be on yours and do a little role reversal, man. What's going on?
Nothing, Dave. I'm glad you're joining me. It was a pleasure to be on your podcast the two times you've done so throughout the year. And anybody who's as entrenched into the St. John's content game as yourself is a fan of mine. I'm a fan of theirs.
Thank you.
And there is nobody who puts in more time than you do in terms of covering St. John's. So I just want to give a quick appreciative couple words and say thanks for all that work and continued success on your part. Everyone who listens to this podcast, I'm sure you know who Dave is. If you do not, please give him a follow.
Thank
Dave,
you.
St. John's,
Yes, sir.
11-1, 73 in the net, 49 in Ken Palm. We have one Big East win, but the rest of the out-of-conference games are beyond us. Thoughts so far? How do you feel?
So let's talk about the elephant in the room, right? The non-conference schedule. Everybody knows it. We've said it a million times already. It wasn't good, right? Numbers back it up, says it's not good. You got the win against Syracuse. You got the win against Temple. You got the win against Nebraska, which at the time you thought wasn't going to be that good, but is turning out to be not so terrible as they've gotten a few wins as well. But overall, the New Hampshires, the Niagaras, and so on, not great. What's the narrative behind it? Is that, okay, they're not going to be battle tested for the Big East. I get it. You beat DePaul already. You're 1-0. You went to Florida State. That Florida State team is not as bad as their record is. They got shooters. You saw what Cleveland and Green did against you. That's not a bad team. I think they're going to win a few more games. Overall, yeah, not the 11-1 record is a bit of fool's gold right now, but I need people to hear this and understand this. So the people that want to just poo-poo it, you have to win games. You have to win the games that are in front of you. And when you're 11-1, believe it or not, that does make what you have to do in the Big East and in conference schedule a little bit easier. So right now, where a team like Creighton, who has dropped games and is 6-5 right now, right? They have to win 11, 12. They have to at this point. St. John's at this point, I think 10 wins likely gets them in. 11, 100% gets them in. 12, you're a top 3 team in the Big East because of these 11 wins that you've started with. So yes, perhaps they're not that great so far, and you don't want to believe in them, and that's fine. And I wouldn't fault anybody for it. I get it. But you have these 11 wins do set you up now for the next 3 months.
Yep. And you covered a lot there, Dave. I think fool's gold is a good way of putting it. I think it's almost like we don't know if it's fool's or real gold yet. The 11-1, like you said, you got to win those games. They're in front of you. You got to beat the teams you play. Obviously, Iowa State loss is the one opportunity we had against a real quality opponent. Looked like Florida State going into the year would have been another chance. Hopefully, Temple, Syracuse, Nebraska continue to rack up some wins throughout the year, make it look a little better. I will say, in terms of looking in the future, do we need 10, 11, 12 Big East wins? A lot depends from here into now and how other teams do. I think if we could make a statement early on, a road game against Villanova, for instance, then the perception kind of sheds that it's a lucky 11-1 to a quality 11-1. It's what really are we? The media, the pundits, fans, they're hesitant to give us the respect, and maybe rightfully so. But I think if we can prove with a big win early on in the Big East slate, they'll kind of appreciate the 11-1 record a little bit more, and it will have a little more substance behind it. But we have plenty of opportunities. Doesn't have to be that first game against Villanova. Hopefully it is.
But I think actually this Villanova game is so beneficial to St. John's, and I'm sure we're going to get into it and preview it, but it's coming at a really good time, I think, for St. John's for multiple reasons. One is it's going to allow St. John's to potentially get a brand name win, which holds weight. It's good for optics. It's good for the committee when they're going to look at it, because Villanova is going to get better. They haven't been fantastic so far this year, and they've got holes and they've got issues, and we'll talk about them. But it is a chance to build on your Big East conference record of 1-0 right now. But I think it's a chance to really make a statement. You want to talk about Villanova's not a top team in the Big East anymore? Fine. You want to talk about there's no Jay Wright, so it's not the same team? Fine. It's still Villanova. All right. If you're John Rothstein, you're calling them a Fortune 500 team still. If you are, if anybody who looks at Villanova, you know that this team still has certain cachet. It still matters. Villanova is not DePaul. Villanova is not Georgetown. This win is going to matter should St. John's get it. I think they're in a good position to do it. And I think that it certainly presents a real chance for St. John's to make a statement really early in conference play.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be a statement win. It doesn't matter what Nova's done to this point. Like you said, that team's got championship pedigree. I'm glad we're catching them early in the conference slate, as opposed to, you know, once they get going and Whitmore gets his legs underneath him, that kid's a beast. You know, I'm glad we're faced them early. Sneak up with a win, put that chip in your pocket. You're headed, you're headed in a really positive direction if we're able to get that win. We will preview that later, folks. So stay tuned. We'll go deep diving into that game. I want to talk now, Dave. You know, up to this point, anything stand out, good, bad, surprising about the St. John's team, whether it's on the court or just players individually?
Sure. I mean, if we start with the good, it starts with Joel Soriano. When we spoke, Pat, you and I, in September, and anybody who kind of was following this team through the Dominican Republic, before the Dominican Republic, we were talking about Joel Soriano in the sense that we hope he takes a little bit of the next step in regards to getting to like 9-6, right? 10-6, maybe. He's taken such a jump that he's averaging so much more than you could have expected that it's a little unfair to continue to expect what he's doing it's obviously to continue, but the guy's got 10 double-doubles this year. He leads the entire country. Zach Edey, who most people have in the conversation for the Wooden Award, is right behind him. When you're in that conversation, what you're doing is really special. And I want to just highlight something for everybody, because what we're seeing, I think, is a little unprecedented, because as St. John's fans, I think, and I'll speak for myself, we have longed for a big man to work through for such a long time. Here are some of the names that you can put Joel Soriano in right now. Now, again, the season is still halfway over. This is the stats that Joel Soriano is potentially on the verge of being compared to. Walter Berry in 84 and 85 finished the year with 17 and 8. All right, in 85, 86. 85, 86, 23 and 11, right? One of the all-time great seasons for a player. All right. David Russell in 79, 80 was 10 and 5, 80 and 81, 14.8 and 7.8 rebounds per game. 81, 82 was 17 and 7, 82 and 83 was 15 and 7. Bill Wennington, 83, 84 finished with 11 and 5, 84, 85 was 12 and a half and 6.5 rebounds per game. But the best big man that St. John's has had arguably in the last 40, 50 years, maybe ever, is on staff right now. Zendon Hamilton had some of the most incredible seasons, and he ended up in the NBA. 11 and 5 his first year in 94. 95, he goes 20 and 10. 96, he goes 16 and 9. 97, 98, he goes 15 and 8. Joel Soriano right now is at 15.3 points per game. He's shooting almost 60% from the floor. He leads the country. He's second in the country in rebounds right now. This season that he is putting together is incredible, and I'm just super happy for him because I've gotten to know him. I know how much work has put into it. That's got to be the biggest surprise, because I didn't expect this much of a leap to happen for him.
It has been incredible, and I keep saying to myself, eventually the stats are going to come back down, but they haven't yet. As a matter of fact, they've just kept inching up. So, hopefully they don't. When they do drop, and inevitably they will come down a little bit. He's still a productive double threat on every given night, and he's shown no signs of which that can't be the case. I don't go back as far to watch Zendon And certainly don't go back as far as Barry, but I think you get a little pushback with those old timers telling you Barry was the best big in program history. But it's a good debate to have. And both lefties too. I think Russell was a lefty too, so it's something to do with those St. John's lefty bigs. Speaking of lefty bigs, David Jones,
Yep.
Soriano's partner in the front court, has had a
Mhm.
nice start to the season, second on the team in scoring. I think actually at this point, him and Soriano are tied for first, but been a nice piece, does a little bit of everything, fits right into our defensive schemes, active in the passing lanes and getting rebounds. He's been a big piece. I would like to see him get a little more solid in terms of his shot selection and his commitment and going to the rim
Mhm.
early on in the games. That was a good sign in the Florida State game, I think, headed
I
into
agree.
these tough contests. He really
Yeah.
focused on getting to the paint, not only finishing for himself, but making plays. Going back to Soriano, obviously, we're talking about good stuff at St. John's. A lot of it starts with Soriano. And just the fact that he is the leading rebounder of the team, it's paid dividends throughout the whole roster. Last year, through the whole season, that's including Big East play, we actually had a minus 1.1 rebounding margin, which is tough. I mean, you're right there, you're battling, it's almost an even match. This year, through 12 games, we have a plus 9 rebounding margin as a team, and that's huge. That's extra possessions on your end, that's stopping the team from getting extra possessions on their end. It lets you get out and run, which we know we want to do if we want to score points. And it all starts with Joel's ability to lock down the paint, and our guards do a great job flying in to get rebounds. Jones himself is a very good rebounder, Wusu for those guards. But as a team, that's kind of become our identity. I'm really interested to see where that margin ends up as we, battle with these Big East teams who have big guys inside. We know it's a battle, it's a bear each night in the Big East. So can we keep that margin in the plus? Can we keep it?
Right.
I don't know if we can keep it towards plus 9, but can we be plus 3, plus 3, 4 on a nightly basis in Big East? That will play a big role in how we're able to fare in Big East play.
Well, so far, so good. Through all of these games, every single game that St. John's has played so far this year, they have won the rebound battle in the game. That's huge. I mean, it's clearly part of the identity and the makeup of this team. Rebounding will lead to the transition offense, like you talked about. St. John's right now is 28th in the country in possessions per game, which is really high up there. You talk about how St. John's plays. They play fast. They want to have the ball. They want to beat you off the dribble. They want to keep it moving. Right now, all of these things are kind of making a lot of sense. And, it all starts with Joel Soriano. David Jones, like you mentioned, his shot selection was so much better in the Florida State game. His rebounding was tremendous. I thought that he went into the paint early and often. He was so assertive. And for someone like him, who I think really cherishes the confidence needed from seeing a few shots go in, when he goes into the paint like that, he gets a few of those early layups. I think he had 6 points really early. It just helps his confidence because I've seen him at Carnesecca Arena and in other arenas when those first few shots don't fall and he gets subbed out, he gets down, he starts to sulk, he's pissed off, which, it's understandable, but the confidence is such a big part of the game, especially for these young kids. David Jones in his first year with St. John's, he's going to want to make a mark. I think that he's been a great addition. I think he is still finding his role and within the team, but I think that he's been really strong so far. 15 points per game, you'll take it.
Yeah. And to your point, Dave, not just Jones, but St. John's in general has had too many nights where they come out, cold from the outside and they let it affect their game overall.
Mm-hmm.
My next point, which I've really seen as an improvement so far this season, is our ability to get to the free throw line. Last year, we did a poor job. We settled for too many jump shots. I thought, obviously, our two biggest scorers last year, Wheeler and Champ and Big East play, are more jump shooting guys, more perimeter players, and they are attack off the dribble. Last year, we were minus 1.5, or I'm sorry, we made 1.5 free throws less than we're making so far this year. And opponents are making 4.5 free throws less this year than they were last year. So that's a 6-point difference. 1.5 more for us, 4.5 less for the team or the opponent. That's 6 points right there. You don't have to worry about jump shots falling in, creating your own baskets. You get to the free throw line, you make those. This year we're making them at a nice clip, 70%. That's 6 easy free points to go along with those extra possessions you're getting on from rebounds and offensive putbacks. That's stuff you don't have to worry about, whether you have it that night or you're cold off the bus. You go to the free throw line. It's the same as any gym, anywhere else. You go make those shots. So I think controlling the glass, getting ourselves into the paint, getting some easy baskets, whether they're layups or at the rim, hopefully leading to free throws, are two ways we can continually keep ourselves in games throughout the Big East here.
Super important that you mentioned that. Last year, and I asked Mike Anderson about this at Media Day this year, St. John's ranked 298th in the country in free throw percentage at 67.68%. There were 9 games that St. John's lost last year by 6 or less points. 7 of the 9 of those games were Big East plays. And I asked him, I was like, Mike, I mean, is anything being done to put more emphasis on free throws? Are you guys practicing them more? And, that may sound like a silly question because it's like, all right, yeah, Dave, obviously we're going to practice free throws. But when it was such a difference in winning and losing games, especially when you are 1 or 2 games from going to the postseason, every game counts. And you're a few free throws away from literally winning so many games. This year, I think St. John's did a great job so far, obviously, at the free throw line. They're making a more concerted effort to get to the line. I think Joel Soriano has been fantastic at the free throw line for a big man.
Oh, yeah.
We just saw him hit 11 free throws the other day at Florida State. So to see that makes you comfortable, especially now that Big East play is coming up, because these games are going to get closer. You're not going to have too many 15, 20 point margins of victory anymore. You're going to be in some real dogfights. You're going to be in 6, 5, 8 point games, and those free throws in the last 3 minutes, they're going to be super vital.
Oh, you mentioned it, Dave. You can't stress enough how important those 1-2 points at a time, front end one-on-ones matter in those close games, whether it's stretching out a lead or crawling back into it. They're free points. And we have done, it's only 3 percentage points, 71% this year to 68. But over the course of a season, that's a couple points each game. And that matters. That matters 100%. We'll talk about what's not going so great, potentially signs for areas for weakness. Last year, we were more of a 3-point shooting team. Not that we were, by any means lights out, but we had guys like Wheeler, Champ, Steph Smith, Coburn, who would predominantly look to shoot from 3. Last year, we shot 33.6 percentage points from 3, which isn't great, but it's serviceable. This year, we're down a little bit to 31.3. We're offsetting that. Like I said, we're getting to the rim more, shooting better inside the paint, which is more reliable, more consistent. We're up a couple percentage points inside the arc, and our opponents are shooting worse all throughout levels, all levels of the court. They're down 3 percentage points from the field. They're down a percentage and a half point from 2. They're down 3 percentage points from 3. So our defensive ability so far has helped shorten that gap between any type of offensive shortcomings you might have coming into this year. I will say my biggest concern for this team and the way we play is our turnovers. I mean, we've seen the Burn Hills Bakery. That's what we used to call it in high school, and my team was turning over. We've seen the Brooklyn Bakery. There's been a lot of turnovers going on for St. John's. Not that St. John's is in Brooklyn, but New York City, close enough. And our 2 lead guards, Curbelo and Posh, are, they're chaotic. They love the chaos. They love playing in motion and playing at full speed, and they don't know any other speed besides that full speed. And unfortunately, with that comes some turnovers. I do think that the over 5 that they combined for, close to 6 right now, could be limited. I think some of them are unforced. I think some of them just a lackadaisical play here and there, tighten it up. Maybe, hold off on the fancy passes every time. We could limit that number by, maybe a turnover a game, which again, in these Big East battles, like you just said, all those close games, that could be the difference between winning or losing and then making the tournament or not making the tournament. So I'd say my biggest concerns going into the Big East play would be taking care of the basketball, defending the 3-point line, which at times has been an issue. Nebraska comes to mind. Florida State, we saw in the second half, they were able to inch back in. We gave them a lot of good open looks. And on our end, making enough open threes to spread the floor and to, when you have to, make some legitimate comebacks and stretch the game out ourselves.
So I definitely agree with you in some stretches there. And what's interesting is that for how poor of a 3-point shooting team we've been so far, like you mentioned, only 31.3%, which is 276 in the country right now. St. John's is 21st in the country in overall points per game. So like you mentioned, it does mean that we are still scoring at a high clip. We are scoring the 2-point baskets. We are getting to the free throw line. So it's not as if they are overly reliant on the 3 anymore. They are incredibly efficient at getting the ball in the basket from too. That being said, the turnover situation. I was talking to somebody about 2 or 3 weeks into the season, and we were talking about Andre Curbelo, who is one of my absolute most favorite players I've ever gotten to see live play. He has been he's been a joy to watch. Hello?
I can hear you.
He has been an absolute joy to watch. I have been in awe of the way that he passes the ball, but he really has been somebody who I think takes moments in the game when they're up by a lot, and he'll make a pass that's a little silly, or he'll take a chance. And I think his turnover numbers are a little bit skewed. I think we'll see those come down. You saw in the Florida State game, he only had 2, just like Posh only had 2. So I think when it matters, maybe the brain kind of turns on a little bit, and they're not going to take as many chances.
I agree with you.
I think that you take the good of the bad. And then this person who I was talking to told me, listen, for every 3 good plays Curbelo does, you're going to get about 1.5 that are going to make you want to rip your hair out. But the good outweighs the bad by so much. And I know people don't want to hear that because turnovers, it will kill you. The things that Andre Curbelo has been able to do for this offense is really hard to quantify, because he's changed the offense. He's changed the look of the offense. I think the way that he's gotten people open, the way that he can create for a guy like Soriano, allow Posh to operate in space, has been really, really beneficial. So yes, the turnovers suck. You hope that now with Big East play, again, we're going to keep saying it, with Big East play starting, it's time to buckle down and get smarter. You would hope that the magnitude of these games allow for that. And I think that we'll certainly see that. In regards to what you said about the one bad thing, the 3-point defense is still bothering me tremendously. Whether it's the system in regards to the switches, whether it's guys just completely out of position because of that, it just needs to get better. While the percentages, if you look at the numbers, it says that they're not bad. So that we've been defending the 3 really well. But if you eye test it, and what I saw at Florida State, what I saw in a few of these other games, it's still concerning to me. And you've got some hot shooting teams. Villanova can shoot the 3.
Oh yeah.
UConn can shoot the 3. Creighton can shoot the 3. They got to buckle down.
Yeah, Florida State, I thought, was a step in the wrong direction in terms of guarding the 3. I think, there has been games where you look really good on the perimeter defensively, and it was something we focused on. And those games, the percentages kind of bear out. There just seems to be too many slip-ups in the second half where you get 2 or 3 wide open threes. If you make 2 threes in a minute stretch, that's 6 points. That can change the direction of the game. You could go from being up 10 to being up 4, or being down 3 to being down 9, just like that, from 2 quick slip-ups where you don't get a turnover, you gamble on defense to get open 3. So it's about being selective on that, and kind of like same thing in offense, knowing when to make that risky pass and when to make the safe play. I'm going to pull up the team stats here. I want to talk about any type of surprises you've seen so far. And one thing for me stands out. This is our team stats right here through 12 games. And if you look at the minutes column there, I got those starters highlighted in green. I didn't expect to see such a, focused 5-man group like we see there. We've got 5 guys above 27 minutes. Last year, we had 2 guys over 25 minutes. So we've got a 5-man group who's really getting comfortable on the court, really playing a lot. I didn't foresee that. I thought Coach Anderson would shuffle the bench through like he did last year. Honestly, I'm happy he's not. I think we've done a better job of forming our core and mixing in those bench guys. Wusu, I think, is a perfect 6-man. He can fill all those holes no matter who comes out of the court, 1 through 4. He can take Jones' spot and play up there. He can take Curbelo out and have Poch play the 1. He can take Mathis out and be the defender on the wing. He's come along nicely these last few games, especially the last game we saw in Florida State was really nice to see. But that's my biggest surprise. Is just I would have guessed we'd see, 8 guys playing 15 minutes or more. And we haven't seen that yet. I wouldn't have suspected to have, 3 or 4 guys close to 30 minutes. We have seen that so far, and I hope to see that continue throughout Big East play. Anything stand out to you, Dave?
So I will just caution with what you said. I think I agree with you in regards to, I love that I think there's a clear hierarchy within the offense right now, but let's not forget Isaiah Niwe was out for a while. And that did change the roster in regards to the minute makeup. Omar Stanley is not 100% right now and is working his way back from a toe injury. So that is kind of, skewing minutes as well. Rafael Pinzon and AJ Storr are trying to figure out basketball right now. That's kind of how bluntly I can put it. Rafi has been really strong off the bench with his shot. His defense has been awful this year. It's been a liability.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry. Whether it's the fact that he didn't play a lot last year and there's still that learning curve. He was a turnstile against Florida State.
Six quick points just in a minute.
Yeah.
And
he sat.
You can't. Yeah, as he should have. Yep.
Yeah, he got yanked. AJ Storr is, again, he's at 13 minutes a game right now. I actually think that with Big E's play coming up, his minutes are going to go up. I think that he is going to be used as a piece with his size, I think. And I'm curious to see what happens with Villanova, because I think size-wise, he matches up really well with a potentially Cam Whitmore, with Caleb Daniels, to give somebody like Mathis or Jones when they're on the bench. So it'll be a test for him. I know from speaking to people on the team, from speaking to others who know AJ, he's a gym rat. This guy is in the gym before games. He is in the gym after games. He's somebody that is tirelessly working. He's got trainers. This guy is somebody who has been raised in a basketball family. He is a freshman who has a incredible pedigree from high school to now. He's going to get it. It's going to take time. People need to allow freshmen to learn. Not everybody is Anthony Black, Grady Dick. These freshmen who are just off the charts, not everybody falls into that category. So, but in regards to the minutes, yeah, I mean, and Dylan Adaiwusu, that's our boy. A great game at Florida State. I think he's now the sixth man on the team. I think Rafi takes a step back right now, and now Dylan gets into that spot, and you just want to hope that Dylan can hit that three.
Yeah, I know. And if he's doing that, it really changes the dimension of our team. The one thing I'll push back a little bit, I think we got those top five. Wusu, like you said, six man. I'd hope that the winner, the battle between Pinzon and Storr kind of goes to one of those guys. And, instead of trying to get them both 12 minutes, who's ever playing better in a couple of games, let's inch that up to 18. And, the loser, unfortunately, will have to sit a little bit. But that's, competitive basketball. Same thing between Stanley and NY. I think with the way Soriano's playing, he can't really afford to give both those guys extended runs out there. Do you know if NY, was he healthy against Florida State? Was he down there dressed up and warming up?
So he was. And I actually, truth be told, I did not realize that he didn't play until literally this morning. A friend of mine texted me and said, why didn't Zay play? And I swear I had to pull up the box score because I didn't even realize it. And from looking at it again, I'm pretty sure that it was simply a matchup situation because after Florida State, after about maybe 6 or 7 minutes, when they pulled McLeod, their 7'4" sophomore, they went to a mainly guard lineup throughout the rest of the game. And so besides Soriano, there wasn't a lot of bigs out there on the floor. So I think, again, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not Coach Anderson, and I haven't spoken to the staff about this. That's my guess in regards to it was simply matchup based. And Isaiah Naiwe, I think, is just simply was on the bench for that reason. But again, my guess.
Gotcha. Well, interesting thing to pay attention to there. I'm a big fan of Naiwe and Stanley.
I do too. I like him a lot.
Quality players who can supplement Soriano or play next to him if we have to play particularly big in certain situations. So hopefully those four guys that we mentioned, those four bench players, can fight for those minutes and understand, it's a battle out there, and may the best man win. It will make the team better. Let's switch gears here. Let's talk about our upcoming game. Big game ahead. Like we mentioned, we've got Villanova on the road. Villanova comes in on a 4-game winning streak. We know that the slip-ups they had early in the year, new coach, injuries. I certainly wasn't rating Villanova off, although I was surprised by a few of those losses. I will not be surprised if they're knocking on the tournament door come tournament time. Thoughts going into this one, Dave?
St. John's is catching Villanova at the absolute best possible time for St. John's, and Villanova right now should be clutching their pearls. Now, before you start calling me a St. John's homer, I will explain why. College basketball is a game of matchups. Villanova and St. John's could not be more different in regards to how they play this season and in general. St. John's plays at one of the fastest paces in college basketball. Villanova plays at one of the slowest, 350th in regards to possessions per game. Villanova this season, in the games that they have lost, has started out really slow, and their offense has not been able to catch up. For a team that plays that slow, for a team that doesn't have enough opportunities in order to get back, against a team that likes to play fast, you have the opportunity to boat race them right out the gate. Now, again, this is crazy talk. I know you're like, Dave, what are you talking about? It's Villanova. Jay Wright ain't walking through that door. This is a different team. Kyle Neptune is a disciple of Jay Wright, but this is a different team. Cam Whitmore, amazing. Going to the NBA next year. Enjoy him while he lasts. He ain't going to be here next year. St. John's, though, has to capitalize because right now, and not on January 20th when the game is at the Garden, right now, tomorrow, they are catching Villanova at the best time because Villanova cannot get ready quick enough for St. John's play, for their style. And so far, everything that Villanova has done should put them behind the 8 ball in regards to giving St. John's a really good chance to win this game stylistically. And if you want, I will go down the list. They don't have size. You got Caleb Daniels. He's going to score for them. Okay. You got Eric Dixon. He's going to score for them. He's 6'8". Trey Patterson barely plays. He's 6'9". That's it. There is no size on that team. If you look at Florida State, what happened with Florida State? St. John's went into the paint early and often, and that's how they won with Joel Soriano. And then they went into the paint with David Jones and the guards and Andre Curbelo. If St. John's implements that same game plan against Villanova tomorrow, that is the recipe for success to beat them. Not only are you going to be able to go fast, but you get into the paint, they don't have the size to stop you. And I think that's going to be super huge. I've got a bunch more that I'll get to, but I got to shut up.
Sure. Yeah. Dominating the paint is my first key to the victory. And you basically said it there, Dave. Villanova does not have size. They do not protect the rim well. If you guys are watching on YouTube, please go ahead. I appreciate all those followers I'm getting on YouTube. You can see this picture I got up here. Villanova averages only 1.6 blocks a game. That's a very small number compared to our 4, which isn't, an astronomically high number, but it's a big difference there. I think we can attack them inside. We can get some easy buckets, maybe get those guys you mentioned, Dixon and Whitmore, in foul trouble, which would be a huge key to giving us a good chance in the second half. And that rebounding percent or numbers right there, 43 a game for us to 31 for Nova. Obviously, that pace you mentioned plays a big part in the amount of shots that are taken. So those aren't, apples to apples right there. But you can tell we've got the interior presence, the interior advantage. And if we don't come out looking to exploit that early and often tomorrow, I'll be pretty disappointed.
So I think that, again, right now, positive for St. John's, but let's be real here too. I went into the Florida State game worried that St. John's would start slow because of the road scenario. We saw what happened at Iowa State. I'm still concerned that St. John's is going to go into the Finneran Pavilion tomorrow and potentially start slow. St. John's hasn't won in the Finneran Pavilion since 1993. So there are cards stacked against St. John's going into this game. But besides the slow play that Nova plays at, like I mentioned, 350th in regards to possessions per game at 65.7. St. John's does score more points than Nova at 80.9 versus 71. But offensively, Villanova has not been good this year. They rank 320th or worse in the country in field goals made, field goals attempted, offensive rebounds, and overall rebounds, which I believe you alluded to. Again, these are all things that could potentially swing the game for St. John's as long as they get out and run, because a team that can't score the ball, a team that's not going to be able to get second chance points, which Villanova actually doesn't do well in regards to getting offensive boards and allows for other teams to get offensive boards. St. John's, again, is in a really good position here to potentially catch Villanova at the best possible time for them and sneak out of the Finneran Pavilion for the first time since 1993 with a win.
That's a long time, Dave. That is a long time. We need to dust those cobwebs out of there and hopefully get a
Yeah.
win tomorrow for all the St. John's fans who have made that trek to see those losses in between.
Yep.
I think it was Lavin's first year. We got a big win at the Fargo Center, Wells Fargo Center against them late in the year. Really solidified our ranking at that time. I think we are top 20 in the country, but beating Villanova in Villanova isn't easy. It would be a big win. Another thing I think is important to pay notice is our big guys foul trouble versus their big guys. Dixon and Whitmore, I mentioned, it'd be great to get them in foul trouble. On the other end, we got to make sure Soriano doesn't get cheap ones, especially away from the basket. If anything, he's doing it protecting the rim against Dixon and the guards. And Jones in particular, I think, is a very important piece tomorrow. If he's out of the game, I'm not sure how we match up with Whitmore. Mathis and Wasu are very good defenders. They're a little bit smaller than him. It's crazy to say Wasu's smaller than somebody, but Whitmore is he's a monster.
Yeah.
6'8", can put it on the floor, can shoot. He's just a beast. He could really play 1 through 5. I think Jones is a physical matchup for him. Some guy that could, go toe to toe and be I'm not sure if he's going to outplay him or what that might be, but I'll take our chances with Jones versus him as opposed to someone else. So I'm very going to pay particularly close attention to Jones early in the game. Is he reaching? Is he doing anything dumb that might put himself in trouble there? On the other end, is he attacking the basket and not selling for jumpers? I think it can come down very much so to those two players, our front court versus their front court. Who has the better game might, decide who wins this game.
Yeah. Does David Jones start on Cam Whitmore? Does Cam Whitmore start at all? I was talking to a buddy of mine who is a big Villanova fan, telling me that the fan base is really clamoring for Cam Whitmore to start. He's not doing so just yet. Perhaps that happens tomorrow. He's played 4 games so far. He is getting his feet under him. 13.5 points per game he's averaging so far. But here's one of the other things that I want everybody to kind of pay attention to in this game, and a key to success for St. John's. If you have watched Villanova for the last 20 years while Jay Wright has been coaching this team, they do one thing on every single offensive possession forever. They pump fake. It is part of their identity all the time. For whatever reason, teams they won't stop biting on it. St. John's needs to stay out of foul trouble for the reason that you're talking about in regards to you don't want to create these imbalanced matchups on defense. And St. John's needs to obviously keep Villanova, who is one of the top free throw shooting teams in the country year after year, off the line. Do not bite on that pump fake. They're going to do it on every single play. You're going to see it on every single play. And if they start jumping on it, you're going to be like, Dave, you told them not to do it. Why didn't they listen to you? So that's what I stay down, keep your feet down, put your hands straight up. Do not foul. Do not bite on that pump fake.
Yeah, Villanova is a team that will absolutely make you pay for fouling, and they do. They make a living off it, like you said. Pump fakes, get in the paint, 2-foot stop, jump stop, pump fake again, get you up in the air, get you in foul trouble. Nobody does it better, and I do appreciate it. There's no team I'd rather. No team I enjoy watching more than besides St. John's than Villanova. And we'll see if Neptune can continue that trend. It's going to be tough. Jay Wright was a hell of a coach. So my first key. Dominate insides, rebound, scoring. Second key, foul trouble. Like you said, don't want to put them in the line. Don't want to get our bigs in foul trouble. My third key is going to come down to defending the 3-point line. You mentioned Villanova loves to put it up from 3. They've got a handful of guys who could get hot. Obviously, Dixon, Daniels, Slater. I don't want to overlook Archidakino. I know it's not Ryan. It's not the guy who's killed us in the past. And I know he's a former walk-on, but this kid is a dead-eye shooter when he's left open. He's not going to blow by us. He's not going to, make us pay for full court pressure so much. But if he gets open in the corner, he'll absolutely make us pay.
It's very funny. It's very funny that, with Chris Archdiacono, because again, I was talking to a few Villanova fans, season ticket holders, people that really know it, who are really looking forward to this game as well. The fan base actually doesn't like Chris Archdiacono playing so much. He's playing 30 minutes a game, but Mark Armstrong is their stud 4 or 5-star freshman point guard. He's only playing 17 minutes a game. They want those minutes swapped. But Chris Chris is a good point guard. He keeps turnovers down, and that's one of the big reasons that Cal Neptune has been using him. He really steadies that pace and lets guys like Caleb Daniels and Brandon Slater, they let these guys go to work. For the 3-point line, though, for Villanova, do not overlook Brendan Housen. That kid can shoot it.
Okay, you heard it here first from Dave. 10 minutes off the bench, but a lights out shooter, over 50% from three on the year. So if he's in, we got to mark him, get our hands up high. Yeah, Armstrong has been a little bit of an enigma so far. I know Villanova fans expected him to come out of the gates a little bit better, and I have seen a lot of that discourse about wanting
Probably
him to
similar
bench Archie
to
Diacono. I
probably
think
similar
Archie
to what St.
Diacono is a
John's
solid
fans
player
with AJ Store, probably some of
for
that
sure.
same kind of thing.
For sure, you're absolutely right. But that 0.5 turnovers a game by Archie Diacono has got me speechless. I mean, that's very impressive for a guy playing 30 minutes, handling the ball as much as he does. So it'll be interesting to see how our guards do. Who very good so far, turning the other team over. How we'll turn over this Villanova team, as you can see from there. Nobody on their team averages more than 1.7 turnovers a game. So they do a fantastic job taking care of the basketball, taking care of their roles at the free throw line, knocking down those freebies, and then hitting their open threes. But I think if we rebound, we win that battle. If we stay out of foul trouble, we force them to beat us from the field, 2-point shots especially, and we hold them under 40% from three. I think that's a good line. Anything above 40 would be tough to beat them. I'm not sure if keeping them under 40 is enough to win, but I know if they're over 40, it's going to be really hard to beat them. So hold them under 40% from 3-point line. I think you got a really good chance to go into Villanova and beat a quality team.
So we both agree on the size. My one of my keys is to obviously stay out of foul trouble by not biting on the pump fake. We talked about, so you're going to have to stop Caleb Daniels. He's their leading scorer, 15.9 points per game. Cam Whitmore is a phenom. My other big key, and you touched on it there, is the 9 turnovers a game by Villanova. I believe that's top 3 in the country right now. They only average 9 a game. St. John's thrives and needs to get into their offense by creating turnovers. So how does St. John's turn a team over that doesn't turn the ball over? That's going to be a huge key. Can St. John's get that 9 turnovers per game from Villanova to like 13, 14, 15? That could be a really big deciding part of the game. Will Andre Curbelo, Pasha Alexander, will they be a little more aggressive on their guards to maybe get another extra steal or two? Will they try to bite on the passing lane? These are the risks you're going to have to take in a game potentially to win on the road. I think that it's going to be super interesting to watch. It's going to be a really big test for St. John's. Does St. John's defense step up in a game like this? Do the turnovers play a factor for St. John's? I think it's going to be really, really interesting. And my last thing is going to be Joel Soriano versus Eric Dixon. Pat, you and I spoke about 3 weeks ago on text, and we were talking about the big men in the Big East, and I kind of poo-pooed Eric Dixon in regard, because to me, I don't think Eric Dixon is a big man per se. He's not in the Joel Soriano, Adama Sanogo, Ryan Kalkbrenner category. He's a 6'8". He's more of like a 4 to me, but for Villanova, he's their center, he's their big guy. So it is going to be Joel Soriano versus Eric Dixon, and this is going to be arguably Joel Soriano's biggest test in regards to opponent who he will go against. And for those people who are potentially saying, oh, well, I want Joel Soriano to do it against a real big man, fine. Let's see what Joel Soriano does on the road against Eric Dixon in Villanova. Will Villanova try to draw Joel Soriano outside? Will they not let him get comfortable or be a presence in the paint, use his 6'11" frame? I think it's going to be super, super huge. Eric Dixon is an 80% free throw shooter. So if those pump fakes start on Joel Soriano and you get that big man up, not only is it going to hurt St. John's because he's going to not be able to play as much, but you're going to put a pretty good free throw shooter on the line as well.
Yeah, he is a really good player, an inside-out threat. Like you said, he's certainly capable of making those threes and stretching out the court. He does give up a few inches inside to those bigs in the Big East, but then he could back down a bulldozer with those freaking hips and those shoulders. That kid's is a beast. That's a huge matchup. We've touched on that. Interesting to see what Soriano will do, if he'll come out and guard him on the perimeter, full throttle, or if we'll try to do some switching there. It could lead to some open looks that worries me, but it's all going to get played out on the court tomorrow night, Dave, and I can't wait. I cannot wait. Dave, thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you tell the fans where they can find you?
I appreciate it, Pat. You can follow me on Twitter, Dave _8. I think that's my Twitter handle. Search the hashtag SJUBB. I'm all over it. If you can, or if you're interested in more St. John's content, check out the Eye on the Storm podcast. That's my little project started this year, doing pretty well thanks to the help of guys like Pat and others who have been on. And listen, for those of us who love St. John's, who watch St. John's, we're here to watch this team hopefully succeed, bring you some content. And Pat, I really appreciate it. Let's watch some wins. Let's see if the Johnnies can make a statement tomorrow against Villanova.
Absolutely, Dave. It was my pleasure. Thank you for coming on. Everybody, give Dave a follow. Do I have to get a prediction from you, Dave, or do I let you off the hook?
You can get a prediction. St. John's a three and a
Tomorrow
half
night,
point.
what happens?
St. John's a 3.5-point dog right now. Take St. John's with the points. Take St. John's with the money line. St. John's wins by 6 tomorrow against Villanova. They get their first win at Finneran since 1993. St. John's wins it tomorrow. Book it.
Dave, I hope you're right. I'm a little bit more pessimistic. I think we play great. I think Villanova also plays great. A tough battle, back and forth affair. I think we cover but lose a tight one. And it won't be pretty for our fans who probably will crumble back down to earth after that. But I'm hoping you're right on this one. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. For Sir Dominic Pointer, that's David Baroff. I'm Pat Kane. Peace.